Hey everyone, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with a Vivi Omi update video. Guys, if you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. I love y'all. Everyone say hello to Dashi. Hello, Dashi. Commenting, liking, and subscribing is a free way to help support the channel. Non-free ways are Patreon and smashing that super thanks button down below. And become a member, join Patreon. RaveX.dth domain name. Okay, so we'll start off with Earth 2. Earth 2, we do have a couple of things to go over. We do have a tweet from Shane from this morning saying, a month ago, I hinted that red energy will have alternative utility. In fact, the reason it was released in the first place was to give active raiders time to gain a bit of buffer before incoming civilians. I didn't want to force players to repeatedly use their direct ether balance to sustain civilians until the agriculture and farming system becomes available, plus energy types, including red energy, had been out of the cards for over a year. Those of us that have been in since 2020, we fondly remember. But good raiders should still end up with a lot of excess red energy, but it will still mean that players need to think strategically about how many civilians they can sustain with red energy, at least until other methods of sustenance are released. So if you don't have enough ether or essence to be able to sustain that now, you might in the future, depending on how things go. But check out the article above to learn more about how sustenance system will work, so plus some other little bits and pieces of information the article shares. He hashtags a bunch of stuff and then says, here's a screenshot of the additional UI, and that's over on his Twitter, and it just shows the amount of red energy that you can get, which is here's the balance, here's the usage, here's how many are required tomorrow for the additional civilians, and then on the other side it says how many civilians you have walking around, and then how many total civilians there are. And if you go and take a look at the Earth 2 website, there's a bunch of people going. Like, if you take a look at the top of the website, every, I would say, 4, 5 per second are going. And not all of that is red civilians. Some of it are just people collecting ether. Some of it are people that are buying jewels. Some of it is buying land. Side droids are being released. So there's a whole bunch of things that's happening going on. But if you take a look at the article, it says sustenance for first edition civilians on Earth 2. And on 3 May 2023, Sydney, Australia, Earth 2 is pleased to share details of the first sustenance system within Earth 2. Amongst other things, this article also explained how red energy will be used. It's basically kind of just what Shane had said. They just reworded a little bit, and Shane, I think, just put down a watered-down version of that. But definitely go take a look. Go to Shane's Twitter and go and check on the website. It does go into a bit detail. You could probably make a 20-minute video, maybe even a 30-minute video if you go on speculation on this, which I won't do that here. That'll be too long. But anyway, super exciting stuff for Earth 2. And we're going to move on to Omi. So again, like I said, because I happened to lose that $200 to $300 worth of Bitcoin when I was trying to buy Mong, M-O-N-G, which I am still pretty bullish on. They're not really on any exchanges right now. You can really only get them on Uniswap and all that. But like I said, I would, if that $200 to $300 happens to show up, sure, great. I'll go and get some Mong right now while it's still where it is. But again, I did buy another million Omi yesterday, so I'm up to 166. I'll probably buy another million Omi by the end of the week. And be advised, all of the Omi that I'm buying is from the Vivi app. I'm not actually buying it from Vivi. It's just people that have Omi on their app and they want to do an OTC deal. They send the Omi, I send the funds, etc., etc. Comment down below if you want to do something like that, or comment down below if you know someone that says, hey, I have Omi on the app, I kind of want to get it off. I will 100% go and buy it. It just might take me a little while, just because I've had a bunch of people messaging me about it. So anyway, Omi on the day, up 2.2% to 00063. We were down a little. We were down to close to the 5 nines. We were down at 000619 yesterday. Everyone comment 619 down below for Rey Mysterio. But we had less than 700,000 in volume today. It's 676,000 in volume. It doesn't. Yeah, this volume is probably going to stay the same. Even when we have Omi to NFT, the volume might uptick a little bit because a lot of people are going to realize that they don't have Omi on their apps and they're going to need it on their apps. So you will have a bunch of things going on, like people trying to send directly from layer 1 on the exchanges to the Omi app. And again, that doesn't work. You're going to have to go and bridge it first. It does take, I think, a few hours for that whole process to work. You do have to pay gas fees, but once it's on the app, once it's on layer 2, you can send it from account to account and it's absolutely free. I don't think there's been any gas that I've ever paid, and I've moved quite a lot of Omi on the app, back and forth between people. Oh, one more Earth 2 thing before we move on. We have Eugene Philosophisticator. I'm not sure that's a real name, but he had finally hit 60,000 tiles, so congrats to him on that. Anyway, we do have a couple of things going on, one of which I know I had mentioned the Marvel Mighties yesterday, but it seems that every single day, more and more things are going on. Like the Mighties woke up this morning, things had risen up a bit. I did sell one of my Spidey 2099s, and I know people are saying, well, Chavez, there's not a lot of those. There's barely 2,000. Because you have that 2099, the actual mint numbers, and then you take away 90, so it's really only 2,009 of them available. But if you take a look at some of the other things, like the secret rare one from the Thor one, it's Beta Ray Bill. He's a lot lower. He's a lot more scarce at 1,500. And then you have Namor, who's only 1,000, which really means 910 because they take away that. And then you have the Shuri Black Panther. But again, I had 2 of the Spidey 2099s. I kept my sub 100. That one's going to stay with me for quite a while unless the price really, really rises and I can go into other things. At some point, I might sell the sub 100 Spidey 2099, get a normal sub 100 2099, because usually you would see something about, I would say, a 2.5x the price. So if the price does get up to, let's say, like, $1,000, and I could sell that one for 2,500, my sub 100, I'll do that, and then just buy a normal 2099 Spidey, and I'll just get that. I'll pocket the 1,500, and then I'll go through other things. But speaking of other things, I did buy a Wasp. It was a sub 100 Wasp. It's my 10th sub 100 Wasp that I have. Again, I've been buying these just because I like them. They're cute. I always suspected that they had something going on. And then, of course, when you have not just Alex say it, but when you have Vivi in general saying, protect the mighty at all costs. Again, it just kind of reminds me of that scene from Star Wars Episode 2 where Samuel L. Jackson says, protect the senator at all costs. I feel like I went over this yesterday, so I won't spend too much time on it, but we do have an update from the Vivi feed that says, here's the top 4 selling secondary market brands on Vivi. Market brands being like, oh, this is from Universal, this is from Cartoon Network. Well, number 4 was Daredevil, so you had a bunch of people buying him, probably just because a bunch of him is really cheap, and you don't have to buy something that is, you don't have to sacrifice something that is ultra animated in order to sacrifice it for the Soul Stone, for the Gauntlet, for Thanos. You just have to sacrifice almost any of those Marvel brands. I think the only ones that weren't there is just the Marvel Mighties, the stand that it has for the Invisible Woman, that one we had recently, and then like one other thing. I think Moon Knight was the other one that you couldn't burn for whatever reason. But anyway, so a lot of people have been buying Daredevil just because on Daredevil you have a lot of them are really cheap. So there's 107 of him that have been bought. The lightsaber collection, I think just because it's Star Wars month and we are currently on 3 May, so tomorrow is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Drop your favorite hashtags down below. And that's why a lot of people had bought that. There's 111 of them that were bought. Then we have 140 Marvel's The Avengers. So I think a lot of those just really happen to be under the stones, what people were buying, Tesseracts, Mind Stones, whatever. And then you have number 1, Marvel Mighties. 688 of them have been bought. And I'll do some quick math right now. 688, if you divide by 59, because that's how many Marvel Mighties there are, that's 11.66. We round up to 12. 12 of each had been bought. Now, obviously, you can take away I'm going to say that, I don't know, the Namors went up a lot. So did the Shuris, and so did the Spidey 2099s. So let's say if you take away 10 of them, which are from the Eternals, because I don't think 12 of each of those were bought. Some might have just because they're very cheap. And again, who knows what they're actually planning. If they go do some type of game and they say, oh, hey, the ones with the most amount of mints are the ones that give you the best powers, whatever it is. Eternals are up there. They have some of the commons, I think, of like 18,000 of them. Like I said, they are pretty far up there. But either way, take away those, you're probably looking about 13, 14 per Marvel Mighty. I imagine the most popular ones would be like the Doctor Doom, they'd be the Spider-Man. Even though Spider-Man's not a first appearance, you just kind of want him because he's Spidey. People go crazy over him. Like I said, Captain America, you'd have all the Fantastic Four, etc., etc. Anyway, moving on. So there are a couple of things that I do like to go and take a look at. Now, let's say the Human Torch, and these are things that I think are fairly undervalued. You have a number 42 Human Torch listed at $500, and you have Jake Hill XRP that has it. So normally I would say, it's probably not really worth it for something like that for a sub 100, but if the cheapest sub 100 is $400 for number 96, and again, I think that is a little much. I don't think I would pay that for a Human Torch, but again, he is one of Marvel's favorite characters, even though a lot of younger people might not really know who he is right now just because he's not in really any of the movies, or not in any of the good movies of the MCU. He is in some of the movies that are older and nobody really knows or cares about him because, they're just not that good. But when you have something that, say, I don't know, $300 would be, let's say, fair. A sub 50, you're looking at about 2x that. So I think at 500, it's probably pretty good. Some other things we have is Odin. Odin's like $90-something or like $30-something, give or take. But then you have number 69. Everyone comment nice down below with the 69, Odin. which is $169. I think that one is fairly undervalued. And then that's all the ones that I have for today that I just saw really quickly. Moving on, we have the Rootless Girl over on Twitter. This is Kelly the Vivi Fox saying, here's the monthly Vivi market pulse. Now, the weekly one that we went over yesterday was pretty bullish, saying, oh, hey, everything was up from the week prior. Now, that being said, even though we are on an upswing at the end of the month, the entire month of April really wasn't that good. The amount of active wallets was down 5.4% to 27,000. The amount of trades were down 18.4% to 139,000. The amount of buyers were also down 15.8% to 12.3 thousand individual buyers. And the tokens minted, the sellers were down 6.6% to 15.8 thousand. The tokens minted kind of traded sideways, 89,000, which is fair. And the minters were down 1.2% at 21,000. Again, the 845 merged accounts and the 16,177 tokens were transferred via merges. We do have more merges, more news on merges in a second. But the reason why I'm so bullish on this is because, again, for a bad month, we had a really good last week of April. And again, Star Wars month, it's going to be May. This is not the only Star Wars drop we're going to get. We actually have two that are announced. Obviously, we do have Luke going in for tomorrow. And then we do have Grand Admiral Thrawn comic coming in on Thursday. That's for Revenge of the 5th. They haven't really announced anything for the 6th yet. I really would like something like that. Return of the 6th. We'll see. I would not expect... I took a look yesterday on all of the announcements when they announced Marvel Mighties, and it's usually about 2 days after the movie has come out. And the movie's not coming out, Guardians of the Galaxy, until Friday. So we might get an announcement on Friday for the Guardians Mighties drop, but then we won't actually get them until Sunday. Again, this is just thing. And so we might not get them until the 7th, or maybe they'll announce the 7th, they'll give people the weekend, and then we'll go and get it at some point during the week. But we won't get that announcement probably for at least a couple days. So like I said, we have that, we have the crafting. There was just a whole giant space on crafting. There was a whole giant space on people just going and saying, oh, hey, this is what we're expected to do. And just a recap on that, from the Vivi Q&A, collectibles are made by different studios. Some companies will supply their own studios for their collectibles, usually. If not, Vivi will supply the outsourced service. And that's why some, like you said, you have Star Wars, which are LucasArts. They're giving you the Luke, which looks, okay. You could tell it's Luke. That's all I'll say about that. And versus someone else, like Avengers, and you like Marvel, and you get Thanos. And like, oh my God, Thanos, Gauntlet. Beautiful. Now, granted, they have been planning the Thanos and the Gauntlet for well over a year now. So it does make sense that they would have that ready. But yeah, you could clearly tell some of the differences. And you could even take a look at some of the high quality ones, the ones directly from the studios, and the poorer ones that were left up to being outsourced, which is not necessarily the case. But again, Alex mentioned Lucasfilms provides their own team to Vivi. And again, we'll kind of look what Luke is looking like. Again, people don't really care. It's just the first Luke on the blockchain. It's, shut up and take my money. But it also depends on the time frame and the deadline as well. If let's say they had something else planned for the 4th, and they, like the Admiral Akbar, which was teased at first, and then they said, hey, we don't want to do this, we want to give you Luke, and then they only have a couple weeks to do it. So they might have been something like that. But it also depends on the time frame, deadlines as well. Seems like good-looking quality collectibles, like anything in life, take good preparation and skilled hands. This is that little piece of info was from Vince Oja Castro over on the Facebook, and saying Marvel apparently does not provide their own stuff. That's why you do see Thanos looking really well. I think Universal is the same thing as well. I'm not sure, 100% sure where this is done. It may or may not be done by Cavernous, because you take a look at Cavernous's work and it looks amazing, and then so does the T-Rex, and so does a couple of other things. So comment down below all of your favorite theories about that. Anyway, moving on. We do have, yesterday, Crypto R Us. The guy says, I am George, we are all George. He's just he's an interesting guy, very predictable. You love him. Basically, he had a deal with Akomi before. I'm not 100% sure where the deal came from. It could have been for the people at Vivi. It could have been from somebody else saying, here's a whole bunch of money. Can you go and chill this for us? Either way, he did mention Vivi and Akomi in a live stream yesterday. Somebody just asked him a question about it. He's like, oh yeah, their IP will carry them really far. And that was pretty much it. That's what he said. It's pretty much his go-to answer for all the questions about it, really just about the IP. I really would like to have him on just to kind of say like, hey, we don't just have IP. We have a bunch of amazing things in the works. Here's what's happened over the last couple of years. Here's what's going to happen over the next couple of months. Here's every major catalyst. And I would love to see him ape in I think the last time I got someone that they bought on stream was Eva from Viviversity. Her brother got him on stream. She had tried to get him for like months or even a year to get Omi. He didn't get it. Bought a couple million when he was on stream. Thought it was pretty great. Speaking of whales, I went over and got a buddy of mine, friend Ernie. Shout out to him. He's a great dude. Went and said, "Oh, hey, am I doing good, Chavez?" And I was like, "Oh my god!" So I take a look. He got MCP yesterday. That's what most everyone that got KYC'd got their stuff yesterday. A lot of people got it, weeks and months before, but everyone that was KYC'd got it yesterday. I'm not sure if this is correct because again, if you have a lot of points, it might be correcting in the background for a while. It says he got 4,200 points yesterday. Anyway, he has 2.8 million points, Master Collector points, MCP level 83, and a lot of his stuff, it doesn't say that he's almost in the top 100 wallets. With having 2872 stuff between collectibles and comics, but a lot of his stuff are sub 100. They are amazing mints. This is the same person that I was talking about the other day that had like 237 of those Thor Love and Thunders. He's very, very bullish on this. He has a ton of Omi as well. Not a ton of Omi in the app, and this is what I'm talking about. Remember when I think it was Reese that had said on Around the Akomiverse a couple weeks ago, saying, oh yeah, if you have both a lot of MCP and a lot of Omi, you're probably going to have an advantage. So I'm not 100% sure what those are. Really things that I'd like to connect is saying, oh, maybe if you stake on these Omi loyalty brands and you go and you say, hey, for loyalty points, I'm going to go and lock up my Omi on the app for X amount of time. Now, most likely it's going to be stuff like, oh, hey, you pay less fees, but it would be really great if you get like 1.5x the amount of MCP points every day or 2x the amount. So let's say if you don't have a lot of collectibles, like I'm in the top 500 wallets, but I'm nowhere near top 100 or 200, 300, whatever. If I'm able to go and lock up my Omi for X amount of time and suddenly get 2x the amount of MCP points, that really helps. Or on the opposite, if you maybe don't have a ton of Omi and maybe they could do something where if you lock up or stake collectibles, you can go and get extra MCP points and maybe you could use these different MCP points as a way to go and say, hey, increase my waitlist numbers. You're going to be able to do that anyway with MCP numbers with your points, but if there was a secondary way to do that, let's say if you didn't have a lot of Omi and you stake the collectibles, maybe you don't just get normal MCP points that you could just use for the waitlist. Maybe you can get a different version of them that you can use for the Omi side of it. Again, it's just something that I'm thinking of right now. And remember I said we were going to go over a little bit about merging. So there was what I thought was, and Vivi Comic Feed over on Twitter had reported as 4 different sales of Marvel Comics #1, mint number 4067, mint number 42260, mint number 13350, and mint number 12742. I thought those were all individual buys because they had posted it as, oh, hey, this comic just sold on Vivi. But it wasn't that. It was, according to Omi Daily Burn, it was just a merger of his accounts, and that's why when the tokens transferred, it came up as 4 separate sales. It wasn't that. It wasn't someone spending 20 grand on the app, although I thought it would be dope. There was a couple of sales recently. I think Biscuits happened to have one of her sale, and then a couple of others over the last 24 hours, but it just wasn't 4 all together like this in the same thing. I'm not saying somebody shouldn't do that. I'm just saying that it just didn't happen yet. I could see that happening at some other time. Speaking of some other things, we have the Amazon is launching their NFT marketplace in about 12 days. It's going to be huge for Web3. I will probably make another video on that because there's a lot to go over. There's a lot of info on it. They have delayed before. Might delay again. Who knows? But I'll make another video on that. Comment down below if you're excited about Amazon. I think it'll be really big for Web3. But again, who knows? Update from Jeremy Pador saying, stay away from those who belittle your ambitions. And I'm not going to lie. I feel that 100%. A lot of people, again, I've usually never have had more successful people than me go and like talk down to me and try to belittle me. It's always usually the ones that are not as quite successful and just trying to tear each other down, trying to bring themselves up. Again, doesn't often work. Anyway, that's it for me. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. I love you guys. Goodbye. Meow, 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 meow.